Welcome to my 10-month and 30-day check-in with No Nicotine. And in today's video, I'm going to be discussing how addiction affects anxiety, and starting off with mentally, how does addiction create anxiety? And mentally, it creates anxiety with constant thoughts of using a substance, constant thoughts of when are you going to stop using the substance, constant thoughts of if this is the right thing for me or not, constant thoughts of do I really want to subject my physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental states of being to this substance. And that's where a lot of anxiety will come from, because you're gonna think that you're doing things constantly wrong all the time, constantly doing the wrong thing, and that's gonna create anxiety within you, in your thoughts that keep running away from you when you're not following the correct actions that your mentality and that your mental state of being is on track with. For example, if you're not necessarily sound with what you're deciding and you go ahead and you use that substance, then there's an opportunity there for you to have anxiety, because you will have that feeling, whatever you correlate that thought or feeling with the substance, you'll have that happen to you. And you have already told yourself prior to that, like I was just saying, these thoughts, these mental thoughts of, is this right for me? Do I want to continue doing this? And then the ones that you do get where you tell yourself, okay, this is the last time. This is the last time I'm going to do this. This is the last time I'm going to do this. And then because you know why, you have reasons of why, and then you go ahead and you bypass that rule you made for yourself and you do use that substance, then you will possibly deal with that anxiety, because you already told yourself and made the decision that you don't want it anymore in your reality. And then when you go back to it, basically going back on your word, you're gonna mentally think like, wow, like that makes me think that I am not mentally as strong as I actually need to be, and that I need to take this moment and learn something in order for me to have the mental strength to have the mental strength to not give in to any of those thoughts and be able to move on beyond that. And once you do realize that, oh, okay, this is the anxiety, it's only going to last for a certain amount of time, however long that substance really takes effect for you. And you're going to realize that as you come down off the substance, your thoughts, your mentality is in a much stronger state of being, and you're not as, how would I say, all over the place mentally. You're more structured and you're more mentally able to apply your mental state of being, whereas before you had the anxiety from, well, we're talking about now being correlated with the use of a substance and through most likely addiction, then that's how mental stress can occur. Well, actually, mental anxiety can occur from addiction. physically, how can anxiety be derived from addiction, and how can addiction have an effect on anxiety when it comes to the physical state of being? Well, this ties into a little bit with mental as well, where your actions and things when you're sober, say you go a certain amount of time and you're around a certain amount of people and you don't have your substance, or you don't have whatever this behavior is that you're either dependent on or trying to somewhat detach from, if it's something that you're trying to detach from, hold on one sec. Like I said, these activities, like behaviors, like certain behaviors, like actions, certain actions that we're trying to detach from, and then you go a certain amount of time with certain people and you have these certain experiences, and then you go back, maybe you say you go back to your own space, and then you do end up going back to that substance that you're constantly using physically. And possibly your anxiety might have to do with, those past experiences, whereas before you didn't have to second think anything and you were just already in the moment, not worried about anything. And then say you use a substance and then automatically, or not automatically, but there's a chance here that it can cause a sort of anxiety because it's not aligned for you. And that's a really good sign of how you know that something's not actually right for you, is if you get that anxiety that I'm talking about, and you have these thoughts, you have these actions that are playing in your mind. It's like, is my body doing this? Am I physically overreacting and mentally overreacting, or is this just putting me in a state of being where I can reach on my own, but it's forcing it, so it's a little bit uncomfortable, causing there to be that anxiety there. And that's how your anxiety can be started when it comes to physically the actions that you go through when you're just sober, you're not using that vice, and versus when you go back to it and you are not really making that action in surety, you're already having anxiety, and that's how you know that it's the right thing for you to stay away from that substance and to relate more towards the more balanced sides of what they would call maybe sober, or really what it would just be the less mind clutter and a more clear mind, which would be beneficial to everyone, truth be told. Not only can that occur for the physical state of being, but there's also the element of the unsurety of the harm that you're causing on the body, that you're causing to the vessel that you exist in, and that you experience this world and this reality through. So if you're unsure about your stability as far as health, or your strength as far as health, or your health in general, and how well you are, then that can cause you to have anxiety as well. And that can cause you to come into a spiral of anxiety, where you're unsure if you're sick, you're unsure, maybe you have feelings or thoughts that your body is not right, but you will always be able to tell physically if you're in the right if you're physically fit enough, if you're physically strong enough, if you're physically healthy, or if there's something wrong. But it's just the unsurety of when you're doing a certain substance, not knowing maybe what the outcome of that will be. Regardless of if you stop using that substance, you turn it into a positive behavior and you start to heal from that. That's much more soothing and much more comforting than being unsure of how you're affecting and how this can play out down the road, and how once you do decide to I don't know, I think that smoke's what's making my throat so dry right now, because it's right here. I have the incense burning. This is a jasmine incense, and it's really strong, but I'm gonna keep it burning. And it's a good scent, and it adds to the environment, as well as I think it's getting a little bit dry, so I'm gonna grab some water. I'll be back in a minute. Yes, though, your mental and physical anxiety can be very much helped once you are sure of your existence and sure of being safe in that reality, because a lot of times you'll also notice with these two kind of intertwined here, the mental and the physical states of being, when it comes to substance use, when you are a lot more in the moment, when you are in your per se right mind, or when you are in your highest potential, and when you're striving towards that in any case, and when you're being challenged to even be stronger and even grow more. There's a lot going on here. Let me just catch my breath here. With those two being correlated, and now, like I said, for each, it's going to be, someone's going to resonate with different things. Each person's going to resonate with different things, and what's right for them is what's right for them. So you're going to realize that there's things that are right for you, there's things that put you more towards your potential, then there's things that keep you further away from that. So you can mentally and physically relieve some of that stress with going without that and taking responsibility for your actions. And even if you're going to continue on and possibly use moderation, every time you get that anxiety, remind yourself to literally just breathe through it, just get through it and learn something from it and get something out of that. Physically, like I said, you detach from it, then you detach from your anxiety, surrounded of and surrounded by the possible effects of your actions or of your addiction. So spiritually, and as I said in the 10-month and 29-day video that I posted last night, which was, I said that I didn't unlock any spiritual power or spiritual gifts or spiritual path. That's not what I meant. I've been on a spiritual journey my whole life that I can remember, and I meant specifically through what I've done through this journey that I put myself on. That's when I realized a lot more spiritual abilities and spiritual awareness. So I just wanted to clear that up, just because I wasn't exactly as clear as I should have been in that video, and I thought that I might add that. But how can, addiction start spiritual anxiety in a spiritual state of being? How can it start anxiety when it comes to your spiritual state of being? And that can be, do you even know how long and how much longevity you'll be able to exist here and be able to continue growing spiritually and continue experiencing in life, thus learning through that and being able to grow and move along in your spiritual path without something that you're constantly giving power to and that's constantly taking something from you. I get it, you might think that mentally it's good, physically it's good, it makes you emotionally feel good, and spiritually it feels like you have purpose because you are always on a self-induced, how would I say, continuous cycle that you have not broken free from. Self-induced continuous cycle that you have not broken free from, that can possibly leave you not following your spiritual path per se, or not fulfilling your purpose spiritually. And that can be, that anxiety can be stopped once you realize that even if you do that, even if you're going to implement moderation, you know that if it's right for you, you're only going to use it as much as it's right for you. Not going into the parts where it starts to give you anxiety, or it's, like I said, an activity that you continuously do. It's okay to give yourself a break. It's what I did, and it's what I did with nicotine. It's what I did with vaping. This was 10 months, 30 days, which is really, I'm on my 11th month experience now, so I will be making the 11-month check-in very, very soon, so stay tuned for that. And going on this journey for that long, it's what I chose to do it with, so it's up to you. I just know that I didn't know exactly much at all how I would continue to connect spiritually and continue to grow spiritually in this world, and this definitely helped to make things seem as if I'm truly in the right space, I'm truly on the right path. Has helped to take away and leave some of that spiritual anxiety or spiritual misunderstanding or misguiding or lost down a certain path. It has really helped to make things more aware and make things definitely more reachable and more achievable on this specific spiritual path. So like I said before, in the two previous states of being, it's going to be unsurety of what's going on, what can happen like that, what can happen if something's going to be affected, if you're not going to be able to experience no more. You should be able to have spiritual freedom and a sense of spiritual well-being once you stop that action. I experienced that in a much way, and that was a lot of what relieved a lot of anxiety or a lot of feelings of not knowing where I fit in this reality, not knowing exactly who I am. Learning more about myself is definitely something that I can relate to. The spiritual state of being is the journey of self and your journey through experiences. So it's that connection between spiritually where we are and where we continue to experience on the path of what's right for us and what's right for the self. The journey of the self, like I was saying. I don't know why my mind's like over here and over here. There's a lot going on just in front of me, but I'm trying to stay focused here, and we're getting right into the emotional state of being. So how can addiction and substance use cause you to have emotional anxiety? Well, I'd say that anxiety is probably an emotion, and that you will experience that. Like I've said, if you're doing actions that you're really not signing up for, you're really not agreeing to those terms and conditions, and yet you go somehow getting yourself into that experience, and then there you go, you have anxiety now, and or you tie an emotion to that anxiety where you have this anxiety and you're like, I'm just so fed up of continuously feeling this and continuously feeling this and continuously feeling this, and that right there is going to motivate you in order to push through that anxiety and realize that this is what you need to do. This is the next actions that you have to take. Learn something from that emotional state of being, rather than just, oh, you know what, I'm still feeling the same way. Let me just continue to validate this and stay in this comfortable thing. Because let me tell you what, right now, your mental, physical state and emotional state and mental state of being are going to work in certain ways where one may be validating something coming up in the past, in the future, something that you're going through presently, and or taking something from the past and thinking that, okay, if I do this, then I'm going to stay in that comfort zone, stay in that docile, in that really comfort zone, stay in those emotional state of being that I feel most comforted in, and that I don't want to actually go on a path that is less trekked on, a path that is less stepped down, and that path that is less taken. That can be a good thing, and it can also be a bad thing, because you can use that comfortability to put off the anxiety for now and realize that, okay, this is something that I need to do this for this state of being and or for whatever I need to do in this reality, and this is how I'm going to treat the situation, because you are the master of your reality, and that's what you can do to use that comfortability, and or that's how it can be a good thing. It can also be a downfall because you're not going into an area where I can say you will probably experience more that's going to help you to emotionally grow and or become a stronger being in general, or learning something that you didn't know. But it's up to you to know what's right for yourself. Like I said, emotionally you can learn that this anxiety that you possibly feel, you can use it to your benefit as, like I said, using it as motivation to say that's enough, I don't want to feel this again, I'm gonna back and support that emotion, and I'm going to, next time, I'm not gonna mentally validate this. I'm going to, first off, like I've said in this video a couple times, if I'm implementing moderation, I'm going to see how I do first without it, and then I'm going to experience without it and see how that matches up with how I was experiencing with it, because I want to find out if I want to be on the part that is, oh, it's good for me right now, or it's not the right time for me. And that's how I'm going to kind of figure out what's exactly right for me and how I move forward, because I can easily sit here and say, okay, if I do everything right like this and with this, then I'm going to, in this specific amount of time or at this deadline, I'm going to do this again, and I'm going to stay in this cycle, because that's what's getting things done. That's what's, at least what you think is getting things done in terms of what's most comfortable for you, and that just might not be the right thing for the other states of being and the right thing for yourself in general. So learn how to use the emotional state of being to have it balanced, and through that you'll be more honorable towards the self and be able to carry yourself in a way where you won't have emotional distress. It won't be an emotionally taxing time, and these times will be less difficult. These will be less difficult emotional experiences that you have to go through, because you've done the work mentally, you've done the work spiritually, you've done the work emotionally, you've done the work physically, you've done the work in all states of being, in all of your experiences, and you've created this reality for yourself. So you're not going to allow this anxiety or allow anything that happens in your path, that happens to you, get in your way. You're not going to allow it to stop what you have going for you. You're not going to allow it to hold you back, because you know that this only lasts a certain amount of time, and that sometimes the anxiety is good, and sometimes it's there to teach you something, and sometimes you know you're doing something right if you're anxious about it. You know you're doing something right if you get something from it where it's like, well, this is something that I'm not used to, something that I'm not really comfortable with. And there you go, that's a new experience. There's something good there that you learn. That's gonna be it for the 10-month and 30-day check-in with No Nicotine. Thank you for viewing my video. Make sure you show some support. Thank you. I'll see you in the next one.